Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're well, and I just gotta say I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the comments and the support and the response to this channel. Really means a lot to me, and I love the community that's kind of growing out of this channel. And in this video, we're going to be doing a clinical analysis on a recent video that I did, which was the enmeshed and codependent mother-daughter role play. And in these clinical analysis videos, what I do is I kind of like get into more of a deeper dive into the toxic dynamics, some recovery ideas, into the toxicity of the parenting, and I focus on the first part of these role plays. In my role play videos, as you guys know, there's like usually 3 parts. There's how it goes down in the toxic way. Then the second role play is what it would look like with a healthy parent, and the third play is what it would look like with an empowered child. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just check out the original video. I'll have a link in the description. And in the format of this video, as you guys requested, I'll be doing a voiceover as we go over the ideas in the comments. But I will also, through your recommendations, I've put up bullet points to keep you guys on track about what we're talking about each time we sort of pause the video and get into the analysis. So I hope it's helpful to you guys, and here we go. Hey, I need to ask you something. Yeah, sure. You okay? Yeah, so I love the seating arrangements, and we've booked a cottage for the weekend. And I love the spot you picked out for the ceremony. I'm so excited. I know, me too. Tim's mom just sent me the sweetest text about the spot and the setting. That spot was so beautiful, you know? I showed the pics to Andy, and he was blown away. Andy? You shared those pics with Andy? Mom, you're talking with him again? You ended it with him 4 months ago. Well, honey, that's what I meant by we. He's going in halves with me on the cottage, and he wanted to respectfully ask if he could be present in any way at your wedding. Mom, you're back together? After everything he did in February? I know what you're gonna say, but he's being really sweet. And he said respectfully. He respectfully wants you to consider him being at the wedding. So the first thing I want to talk about in this first segment is the use of the mother's use of we. And I have a little note here that's like calling it a Jedi mind trick. Codependent parents or codependent people, I think we all struggle with some level of codependency, some more than others depending on what the family system was like, is the mother is attempting to gloss over this whole history with this guy named Andy in hopes that the daughter will either get what she means and doesn't challenge her about what she means about the we. It could also be a codependent person trying to give a clue about what's going on and couch things in a certain way. And it can also be sort of trying to get the daughter to almost gloss over this whole thing that happened and oops, I'm back with Andy. Well, I said we, and we can see some manipulation in that. And by Jedi mind trick is sort of from the Star Wars reference, these aren't the droids you're looking for. And in the mother's case is like, oh, I'm just going in on he's splitting the cottage with me. We're looking forward to it, and hopes that the daughter won't catch any of that. And the second piece I have here is gaslighting and codependent manipulation, which is related to the first piece. In this case, the mother, by using the Jedi mind trick, it's like she's lying by omission, not on purpose. It is almost like, for those of us who have children, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old might sort of say something like, you know, my room is totally clean. You don't have to go in there and check. As a way to control, as a way to almost sort of, you know, children are just trying that out, but it's more scary when we have a parent who does the same thing. And the lying by omission about it, it would be much more, you know, appropriate if the mother just said, hey, look, I know you're going to have big feelings about this, but I got back together with Andy. Let's have a talk about it. And I know you're disappointed, and to be more real about it. So that's what I mean about the lying by omission. And lastly, that use of the word respectfully, as I was envisioning this mother talking about whoever this guy Andy, having a conversation with him about how do I couch it? How do we couch it to my daughter to have you at the wedding? And it's an example of an immature conflict style because they're not being real about it. He respectfully, it's a glossing over what stuff actually went down through this breakup. And it makes me think about, it's just something, a pet peeve of mine, is when people sort of say, our families or whatever, when people say, well, that was in the past and we're moving forward now. It's a bit of a very immature attempt on their behalf, and couching that with the daughter. It's just really sort of, it's actually more disrespectful to do something like that than what they're attempting to do there. But he says he totally understands if you don't want that. And he'll just go hiking while we do the ceremony. But if not, maybe you could let me leave early before the end of the reception. He's got friends up here that are only around that night, and he doesn't like it when he hosts things alone. You won't stay for the whole wedding, Mom? Oh, honey, I'm only asking you, and this is entirely up to you. I'm totally here for you, and this is your day. So whatever you say goes. I just don't want him to feel left out. I told him I would try to make the other get-together happen. Mom, I thought you said you were done with him. Tim and I dropped everything and drove down there and moved you out, and it took you weeks for you to finally tell him that you were done. I know, baby, I'm sorry, but he went to counseling, and I didn't want to upset you, but he has started apologizing to me a few weeks later, and I didn't want you to be mad at me again. Especially when you're planning a wedding, I wasn't going to do that to you. Who would I be if I did? So in this second segment, we see a lot of codependent manipulation. The first idea there is the concept that for the mother, choosing between Andy and the daughter is the safer person to disappoint. And that is a very important concept that comes up in toxic family systems, specifically even with siblings. Let's say there's a golden child situation with a scapegoat, or a parent is codependent with her children in some way, or he is codependent. This is definitely not a gender-specific infliction. And what I mean about the golden child scapegoat is oftentimes a lot of clients, and in my own family system, there'd be a lot of like, oh, your brother really needs us right now, you can't be mad at me, or they're having a hard time, you can't be mad at me, so you and I are buds, just let me go on this one. That's what I mean about oftentimes you might have grown up in a family where you were the one that is safer to disappoint, where your parent chose your siblings' needs over yours, or toxic other spouses' needs over yours. That's what I mean about that concept. And the daughter, when it comes to this person, Andy, even though that it's her wedding, she's still the safer person to manipulate and disappoint, because she's not going to be disappointing him. So that's what I mean about that concept. The second piece is that the manipulation is that the mother is kind of giving this fake prioritizing the daughter when she's saying all this stuff of sort of like, it's manipulation, it's kind of gaslighty kind of stuff about, it's your day, we're going to do what you want, you tell me. It's like putting the onus on the daughter to make those awful choices about, yeah, I guess you can leave, it's my wedding, but I guess you can leave at my reception. So fake prioritizing. It's what I mean when she sort of says, God, I wouldn't do that to you right now, or bring it up when you're, it's sort of, the manipulation is sort of, you're the priority, I'm not that bad of a mother, even though I'm asking you this terrible, terrible thing right now. So that's also a way that the mother is trying to control. Trauma survivors do this. We try to control the upset of other people by couching things in a certain way, which definitely is not a good thing. It's indirect, it's a bit manipulative, it's very codependent. The third piece is that when we take a really a closer look at this scene, is the mother is casually betraying her daughter around the most important day in her life. And there's some enmeshment going on there. And enmeshment and codependency are very similar, but I have this little term, enmeshed code, or enmeshment code, is a little bit like a code of ethics for codependency or enmeshment, is that you enable me, I enable you, you don't hold me to task because you know how it's hard on me, I don't hold you to task even though we can't be real to each other. So there's almost a set of rules that we can see from the mother's behavior in this. A lot of stuff like, don't be mad at me, I know what you're gonna say. And codependent, when both parties are codependent, that's what I mean about that set of playing rules. So moving on. Wedding, I wasn't going to do that to you. Who would I be if I did? He started therapy? Yes, well, he stopped now, but things are so amazing for us. He's like a totally different person. And the makeup sex was just incredible. You know what it's like after maybe like a terrible fight with Tim, right? It makes the whole thing worth it, right? I guess I know what you mean, yeah. But I wanted to ask you about that book you read, the one you kept telling me about when I was getting ready to break up with him. You know that stuff so well. The one about not taking people's stuff on? No, that wasn't the one. The one about how to get someone to acknowledge what you're feeling. Do you mean the I statements one? Yes. How do I do that with him? Well, I love practicing it, Mom. All you do is you keep reiterating, I feel or I think, instead of arguing or just going along with what he wants. God, I need to do that. So here in this segment, I want to really have you guys focus on how the daughter became distracted and curious when the mother mentioned that Andy was now in therapy. So I have a note here that's sort of like the daughter lost her upset and took the bait / the distraction. My mentor often will talk about with a trauma survivor, she'll ask them in a session, she'll say, well, where did your upset go? How did you lose your upset that your mother is back together with him and that she's asking you to get out of the reception early? Is where we're talking about the daughter's codependency, where she's avoiding the conflict too at that point. She's avoiding the upset, she's avoiding the boundary setting. And that's what I mean about this, is that, and it's applicable to number 3 on this list that you guys see in front of us. So that the daughter lost her upset. The second piece is obviously the boundaries that the mother is crossing about talking about makeup sex. That's appropriate for the mother's girlfriends, that's appropriate for a therapist, that's appropriate for anybody but our children. It's just not necessary for our children at any age to know about sort of our parents' sex life in that way. And what's behind that, the mother's codependency of being more of the popular parent is a woman named Janet Wojtich that I referenced in my other videos. She wrote a book called Healthy Parenting. There's a type of parenting style that is like the popular parent, where they're immature, they're friends with your friends when you're in teenage years. They're trying to be popular in an immature way, popular with their children. And just the boundary crossing is not a new behavior between this adult child and her mother. That's probably a very old thing. And in some cases, I'm giving a light version of it. There are definitely some trauma survivors out there that are really enmeshed with knowing their parents' sexual business, and they share their own sexual business with their parent. And it's really not good, because it's really takes away from the roles, the parental child roles. There's just so much going on with it that is sort of, we dishonor ourselves by having that going on in our family system stuff. So there's that. The third piece is if you guys could look at or pay attention to how the daughter's role as her mother's helper is a seductive thing. The mother asked, hey, did you tell me, but what's that book again that you know, there's manipulation in that. But when we talk about the concept of parentification, young children, and again, this stuff dates much, this stuff is older than this interaction between the mother and the child. Young children, they want to be in the inner circle of the older kids. They want to know the parents' business. So it is seductive to go to the 12-year-old and say, what should I do? Should I divorce your father? Should I divorce your mother? Should I do this? Should I do that? That enmeshment, that surrogate spouse stuff, that parentification, is children welcome it because they want to be valued. They want to be older. So that's a role that this daughter has been set up in. And in the other video, I was talking about this might be the only way that this daughter relates to peers and to her partners, is this helping role. So we're looking at the etiology, the roots of where that comes from. And the major point in it is that it is seductive to children, and then it becomes a setup into our adulthood to be the helper. So she's been manipulated by the mother about asking about the self-help books and all that jazz. So moving on. What do I do when he goes silent, like when he's mad and he doesn't talk to me for hours? Well, you know, I just saw this amazing Instagram post about it, and I'll send it to you. It's about that. That's called stonewalling. And it's more about them than actually anything that you actually did. Okay, but what do I say to him? Well, you could say, I feel like I'm being punished when you don't talk to me. God, that's so simple. I love it. So then he'll start talking to me again? Well, you can't know that, Mom. It's like, I think if he crosses a boundary, like punishing you with silence, then you have to tell him it's a boundary for you and he can't do that to you. If he doesn't respect that, then you have to make a different choice about the relationship. You're so amazing. So I can choose to not talk either. So there's a lot to unpack in this short little clip that I've got here. The first piece is, the daughter is now in full-on therapist mode with her mother, which is the daughter's codependency. The start of the video, just a minute ago, they were talking the tension about getting back together with Andy, and then the inappropriate request to leave from the reception and all that tension and stuff going on. And now the daughter is sort of welcoming the helping, welcoming as part of her codependent sort of like coping mechanism or whatever, or her role or her as identity as a helper. Now she's full on in it, into the parentification and the codependency. The second piece is, I don't know if you guys caught this, but the cognitive dissonance that the mother is still being emotionally battered by Andy, but doesn't get it, because she just sort of says, what do I do when he stops talking to me for hours? Which is stonewalling, it's silent treatments, it's stuff that people who are abusive can get into. It comes from our toxic family systems about being in the doghouse or using silence as a weapon. And the dissonance is, earlier in the video, she says things have never been better. He's in therapy, although he still just stops talking to me because he gets into a mood for 4 hours and tries to shame me as a weapon. So that the dissonance there is something that a good therapist would catch, something for you guys to watch out for, is to catch people's thoughts, to catch people's thoughts process, not catch them in a lie, not use things against them, but to just listen to people and kind of go, it would be an opportunity for the daughter to say, well, wait a minute, Mom, you said earlier that things have never been better, but now he put you in the doghouse and treats you like S for hours. That's what I mean by that. A piece here, the third piece, what I have a note called concrete thinking is, it's actually a pet peeve of mine. It's just something that inner children sort of do, is when a client says, but what do I say? What do I say? What's the magic thing to say to my abusive ex? Or what's the magical thing to say to my mother that will totally take care of everything? And the mother is asking for that, where she's like, but well, what do I say to him when he's giving me the silent treatment? What's the thing to unlock all that? Not seeing that they're battered or they're in a really bad situation, or the concrete thinking is assuming that Andy would just sort of go, oh, cool beans, I'm sorry, I'm doing that to you, I respect you, blah, 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 blah. So I know that's hard. I'm having a hard time articulating that concept, but we're all trauma survivors. We have some very concrete black and white thinking going on. And the alternative to that is looking at the process, looking to how we would feel when someone is giving us the silent treatment or stonewalling in that way. And the last piece here is related to that, what I just said, is the mother's magical thinking. Because at the end of that whole exchange, the mother just kind of goes like, oh, then I can just maybe not talk to him too. And she missed the whole point. The whole point of what the daughter was saying about boundaries. Like, well, Mom, you have choices to make if someone's not respecting your boundaries and sort of being abusive. The choice she's alluding to, the choice would be to leave. And then the mother takes that as some magical thinking, like a game of like, well, I guess I can stop talking to him too, and misses the whole point. And I have a note here that anything but accepting or knowing that there's toxicity in that relationship. So that was a lot to unpack there. So moving on. So honey, it would mean a lot to him if you would maybe just allow him a seat at the wedding. If not, I totally get it. But maybe if you could tell your father for me that the guy I'm with couldn't make it. I just don't want him to know that I don't have anyone for this special day. Why can't you tell him, Mom? Well, I think, it's just going to look bad, and it's going to look like I don't have it together. His wife will be there, and I'm sure she'll notice I'm alone. Please. Mom, that's really not that big deal, Oh, come on. You can just text him that my boyfriend got caught up at work and can't make up. Make up something about, like, why you're telling him. Maybe something about catering. I don't know. Mom, fine, just come with Andy. I don't want to make something up and send a weird random text to Dad about you. Please don't let him think that I'm ready to talk about February. I can't get into that tomorrow. You're so amazing. I'm so happy for you, and Annie's going to be so relieved that you're okay with him and you want him there. I have to go tell him, I love you, can't wait to see you in your dress. So in this last exchange, as the role play kind of winds down, is the first thing to look at that I have in my notes is really about the triangulation and the enmeshment. That now the mother has sort of doubled down on trying to get the daughter to allow Andy to be in the wedding and still putting the choice in her mind. But the doubling down is sort of like a contingency plan about, well, if it's a no, can you run coverage for me with my ex-husband, your father? So that's a triangulation where she's bringing the daughter as up into the parental sort of unit, kind of the relationship there, even as sort of that they're divorced, even as co-parents, is that the mother is asking her to do her dirty work for her. And that's really one way that a child can be triangulated or be the messenger, or to sort of be an ally against another parent. So that's what I'm trying to spell out there. And the enmeshment is, again, coming back to the codependency of the special rules, the sort of, I will do this for you, if you do this for me, come on, you can do this for me kind of a thing, as manipulative, and, that coming back to that sort of code of ethics between the two of them. So that's that one piece. The next piece is the mother is exhibiting some major immaturity about her ex-husband and how she looks. And one could argue or could be thinking about, well, is the mother a narcissist? And, well, probably not in this case, but she could be a little bit covert, but she's definitely behaving narcissistically about being so consumed with how it's going to look to the ex-husband and the new wife if she were to show up to this wedding alone. And it's like the daughter is trying to push back there a little bit, like, Mom, that really doesn't matter. Because it is something that's not important. Codependent people can be very caught up in appearances or image. Doesn't mean that there's like a narcissistic personality disorder going on. I think as trauma survivors, we can all behave in some like sort of self-consumed narcissistic ways, but it doesn't mean that we have NPD. And I'm always making that caveat because I think in our culture right now, where it's like everything's a narcissist right now. Everybody's a narcissist, and we need to dial a lot of that back, is what I mean. The third piece is that the mother is modeling how the mother does business, and she's teaching the daughter when she says, make up something about the catering. She's teaching the daughter to be manipulative, which causes us a lot of shame if we're raised like that. Oh, just lie, just make something up. Is when you really take a look at it, is that what we would value as parents? And that's where the kind of lowballing that the mother energy can kind of have, just make something up on my behalf, be my buddy, do it for me. That's what I mean by that, what she is modeling. And I'm not saying sometimes as children we will adopt that sort of modeling. Sometimes we'll be vehemently like opposed to it and get really triggered if we're implied. Sometimes we're too truthful. There's a spectrum to that stuff. That's what I mean by that. And lastly, the magical thinking at the end is I wanted to add when the mother sort of says, like, Andy's going to be to the moon when you're okay with him, which is not what the daughter was saying. So there's an important piece there that the mother has taken the ball and ran with it. And it kind of tells us that the mother has a magical thinking, a fantasy about how things go. She makes up a lot of stuff in her head, which is kind of to betray the daughter's reality. The daughter is saying, fine, just, get off my back, have him at the wedding, but I'm not ready to talk to him. I'm not okay with this, blah, 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 blah. I mean, she's not saying it like that, but the mother is just sort of like got so reactive and like, oh, thank you so much. And then she's, it's a way that she's not seeing her daughter or ignoring the reality of the situation as sort of a very codependent person would do. And an important final thought that I really wanted to include in this is sort of the nature of codependency and the severity of what it means when someone is really deep in it. It is really part of their struggle in life. It's something that really runs them. Is my experience as a clinician that, and this is a big statement, is that I often have an easier time getting somebody sober from alcohol or something like that than I do at trying to get somebody who is intensely codependent to get out of it, or to get them to see their part. So, you know, when there's a spectrum to all, I think there's a spectrum to all the disorders, or all the afflictions, or all the pain, or all the heartbreak to the stuff of childhood trauma. But if you have a parent who is sort of like aggressively codependent or intensely codependent, I just want to make it to just honor the intense struggle of what it's like to deal with somebody like that, meaning that it can be incredibly hard, if not impossible, depending on the person, to get them to not be codependent. So our own codependency might be trying to get a mother like this to see her part in things and that kind of a thing, and that's our own codependency to look at. And I would say, you know, give it a shot a couple times, but don't keep doing that with a parent like this, because that is sort of where the stuckness lies. And I want to sort of take it seriously in a way that it is oftentimes a very difficult thing to treat, depending on the person, depending on the severity. So not just like, oops, we're a little bit codependent, here we go. There are some people who kind of have a hopeless case about it. So there's that. So there's the analysis, guys. I hope that was helpful or thought-provoking. If you guys have questions, feel free to leave some comments in the comment, and I'll do my best to try to answer them either in a later video or in some way. I get a lot out of your comments. I get a lot of sort of like good things to talk about in some of my videos, and I apologize that I can't get to all of your emails or all of your comments, and there's that. So I hope the video is helpful to you guys. Stick around for more videos coming up in the next week. And as always, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be joyous. Take care, you guys, and I will see you next time.